You too.
Yippee skippy.
All right. Good evening and welcome to the Scituate Planning Board, Thursday, September 11, 2025. Being held here in the Scituate, the Select Board here in the Town Hall. It's a hybrid meeting, general public welcome. We've been doing this for years. There is a posted agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
First on our agenda is the housing production plan. Good evening. How are you? Come on up. And you have to speak very loudly to the circle on the screen.
Very good.
So they can.
I don't know why we have these microphones.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Irish from the Affordable Housing Trust. And we have been working for, I don't know, four months at least.
It's a lot longer.
6 months,
Forever.
most of the year on the housing production plan. So we have a draft version that we think is ready, and we have yet to vote to approve it. That's our next meeting next week, but we feel it's ready, and we coordinated with the town planner.
Can you explain to the public why we have to have one of these?
Housing production plan is Karen Sonnenberg, our consultant, is required.
And it's required.
Right. Yes, the state really requires the towns have these in place.
Okay.
And I'll do a quick little slide. and describe
Okay,
it.
thank you.
Yeah.
So people will know. Thank you.
Should we?
Karen
I'm
Sonnenberg.
writing.
Okay.
Karen Sonnenberg
Dig right in.
is our consultant that is drafting the plan
Thank you.
for us.
There you go. And this is like the fourth rendition of the plan. We did the plan in 2008, 2015, 2020, and then this is another one. So we keep updating it and revisiting those plans that continue to inform this plan as well as the master plan. And the other real opportunity in these plans is to really say where we've come and what we've accomplished, and have bragging rights to the state on what's been done. And there's a lot that's been done over the years, particularly in the last few years. So that's also covered in the plan. There is a lot of detail. It's a pretty comprehensive document. I'm going to try to just deal with the key takeaways and try to move through it expeditiously. I'm not going to add a lot of the detail that I have in the past to the Housing Trust, but just give you kind of an overview of the key pieces. So this is kind of Affordable Housing 101. What is affordable housing? It basically says if you're spending more than 30% of your income on housing, whether it's home ownership or rental, you're not living in affordable housing. The definition we typically use is the one through the state on Chapter 40B. So for a unit to count towards the subsidized housing inventory, that 10% affordability goal through the annual housing production goals that we include in this particular plan, it has to meet a number of requirements. So it has to be subsidized or approved by a subsidizing agency if it's not directly subsidized. So the 40Bs have to go through a state agency for the developer to get the go-ahead to submit the comprehensive permit to the ZBA. It has to be available to households earning at or below 80% of area median income. And, the income limits have increased substantially over the years. It's not chump change anymore. I mean, it's for a household of three. Last year it was $117,250, and it went up to $119,100. The units have to be permanent, and they have to be deed restricted. And we're talking about pretty much in perpetuity unless there's a reason that for it not being perpetuity, which the state has to. And it has to be affirmative marketed. So as many people within the community and outside the community have an opportunity to learn about the affordable unit and an opportunity to apply. However, up to 70% of the units are reserved for example, 40B projects for those who live, work, or have children attending local schools. So that does kind of protect, make sure that benefits are, accrue to the community to the greatest extent possible. Next slide. So we're just looking at the current subsidized housing inventory. So the 2020 census counted 7,484 year-round housing units, and almost 6.1% are considered affordable, that they meet all those requirements and are part of the subsidized housing inventory. But that's a bit, that's a big improvement over in previous year. In 2020, there was 357 units, down from the 455, and a little less than 5%. So there's steady progress happening. There's still a gap, and when the 2030 census is released, the year-round housing count will be likely higher, and so the percentages do change. Next.
Excuse me,
Yeah,
do rental units count?
yes,
Okay,
if they meet all those requirements.
okay, so it can be both either a condo or a rental unit.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So continuing population growth, there were some population declines in previous decades, but population has been growing, and basically is a little over 19,000 and is projected to be almost 20,000 by 2050. So there's still, it's not immense growth, but significant growth that's happening. Demographic shifts, declines in younger age groups and increases in older residents. And I'll show you a slide that follows that kind of tracks the various income groups. But those 65 and older are expected to be about 25% of the total population in a couple of decades. Increases in smaller households, also affected by the aging population and the baby boomers. Relatively high incomes with a median of 131,861. High also in comparison to the county and the state. Poverty is low at only 2.4%, but increasing for seniors, which is, not what you'd like to see, but is happening. It's still modest, but growing. And growing income disparities by tenure. The median income for homeowners increased by 37% between 2012 and 2023, but increased by only 13% for renters. And median income for renters is just a little over $48,000, whereas almost $150,000 for homeowners. You expect a disparity, but you also expect that some of the higher rentals that are happening might have skewed things a little bit more. Significant special needs, including 32% of those age 65 plus. Basically, it's 7.5% of all residents, which is lower than the state and county levels, but still involves some significant numbers. So this just shows kind of the changes between 2020 census and the 2010 census and 2023 census of various age groups. And the first columns are for those under 20, and it's 2024, turning 34, 35, 44, 45, 54, and then 55, 64, and 65 plus. And you see it basically, for the most part, it's going down in the younger age groups and going way up in the older ones. Kind of a surprise is the 20-34 age group that increased somewhat, which you don't necessarily expect in a community like Scituate, where housing costs are high, relatively affluent, but that's actually a pretty good signal. And the next slide is on change in income distribution, going from the 2000 census to the 2010 census and the 2023 census estimates. And you basically see from the lower income groups kind of going down until you reach incomes of 100,000 and more, and then you see increases, and then 150,000 and more, you see the real steep surge of those in that particular age income category. And just some key housing trends. I should mention that the housing needs assessment is the first big section of the housing plan, and the trends have are in a similar direction for the most part over the decades. However, kind of more extreme in some cases, and there are only minor exceptions. Steady housing growth, teardown activity. The building department actually provided some information, and between January of 2020 and March of 2025, the number of units that were involved in demolition replacement total 128. That's a substantial part of the new housing growth, and something that has increased since in the last few years. Not surprising, predominance of owner occupancy in single family detached homes at almost at 88%, 85% respectively. Another kind of not so great trend is the work declines in rental units, as well as seasonal units. But the rental units in 2010, there were over 1,100 units, and by 2023, they were 890. Likely converted to seasonal units, to owner occupancy, maybe even STRs, short-term rentals. 39% of Scituate's rentals are subsidized. Low vacancy rate, 0% for rentals, and 3.4% for owner occupancy. Anything below 5% is considered very tight market conditions. Prices remain high. Median price for a single family home was $888,000 at the end of 2024. I just checked today. It's as of July, it's 1.1 million. Market rents are also high, with market average of about $3,600. Yeah, if you can find a rental, you've been creating, so that's an issue. Not surprisingly, there are widening affordability gaps, the difference between what people can afford to pay and the going market prices. And not surprisingly, correlated with all of this is increasing cost burdens, where people are spending too much, which is defined as spending more than 30% of your income on housing costs. That involved 30% of all households, and 11% of all households were spending more than half their income on housing costs. Of those, 2,300 households with incomes at or below that 80% of area median income limit. 56%, more than half, had cost burdens, and 28% was spending more than half their income on housing costs, defined as having severe cost burdens. I mean, there are people who are struggling in this community, and that's both rentals and ownership. What? This chart, I'll try to kind of try to help you kind of decipher it, but I think it really shows the shift in the housing market between the years 2014, 2020, and 2025. We're looking at tracking the numbers of units within various assessed values, and this is from the assessor's office. with the early, the values growing, and you can see that recent kick up in the over $1 million property. And you see that the bell curve continuing to change and go towards the more expensive houses. So, clearly 2014, becoming the first peak, 2020, the second peak, having the most units in that range, and then it spread more apart, and there's a little peak in the $700,000 to $800,000 range. So it really tracks kind of the changes. So we just did distilling the various indicators of need that we've identified in the housing plan. Once again, identifying rental units as the top need, to offer more housing choices, to make up some of the loss of rentals, to deal with the huge number of applicants on the housing authorities, for housing authorities units, to deal with the some of the more vulnerable residents in town. And pragmatically, almost all subsidies for housing are for rentals. Home ownership is also important. We recognize in the plan for hard starter housing and condos for downsizing. Still a need, given numbers of those with special needs, to have integrate some barrier-free units and units with supportive services in new housing development. And then older housing stock requires improvements. Almost 3/4 of the housing stock was built before 1980, with potential deferred maintenance problems, lead-based paint, and septic system problems. And also, while we're focusing on the housing plan for those who are earning at or below 80% of area median income, the plan also suggests that there be some consideration for units that sometimes are referred to as attainable units, that are for those who earn somewhat above that 80% threshold, but are still really priced out of the housing market. And there are ways of maybe mixing income tiers to support some of those units. And we get to the actual housing strategies. So we have a kind of a bundle of strategies that are broken down into 3 categories. Strategies come from previous housing plans, comes from recommendations in the master plan, meetings with the housing trust and Karen, town planner. The state categories, there's certain categories of strategies that must be included in the housing plan, and the housing needs assessment. So these strategies are based on those, we call them capacity building strategies, strategies that help the town better promote proactively affordable housing. And what we've included in every plan, because it's important, is to recognize that community outreach and education is important, so that folks know what's being proposed and have an opportunity to provide input. Continue to access housing resources. Town has CPA money and housing trust funds, but in order to leverage those resources and any projects, it's important to reach out to other resources, in some cases to layer various financing programs to make a project feasible. The state recently passed the Affordable Homes Act that provides a much larger array of housing subsidies. And then there are other programs that we identify that the town can take advantage of. create a property inventory. This has been in the plan for a while. Basically, is taking a closer look at what town-owned properties might be available, and if there's any opportunity to actually develop them as affordable housing through an RFP process. And then promote a regional collaboration to obtain professional housing services. So in the past, we have recommended that the town hire a part-time housing coordinator in order to provide some staff support in implementing the various housing plans, strategies that include this plan, and to help with other items that are related to housing. There are a couple additional models that are out there and working pretty effectively. And one is they're in the Metro West area and North Suburban area. And I think there are a couple other areas of the state. They have what's called a Regional Housing Services Office. And a number of towns buy in to this office and services. There's a menu of services and decide which ones they would like. And there are a group of consultants that actually provide those services based on certain fees. And that's worked pretty well, getting some expertise in the towns on a range of issues that will help implement housing plans. The other model is being used in kind of Worcester area. The regional planning agency is Central Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission, has hired a regional housing planning housing coordinator. And once again, towns buy in for some part of that person's time. And it basically is kind of like a circuit rider who provides support to about 8 communities, maybe 6 to 8 communities that are working in that way. So maybe something like that could happen on the South Shore. So without a lot of money, some infusion of staff support could occur. And the next slide relates to planning and regulatory strategies. The first thing is to promote greater housing diversity. There are housing types beyond the single family detached house that can better address a range of housing needs, but they are in many cases, completely restricted or limited. And taking another look at zoning, use restrictions and housing guidelines to see if additional units can be accommodated. Gotta say, the work that you've done on the mixed-use multifamily districts is really paying off, and it's been great. But there are other opportunities that you might want to explore, and we give some examples in the housing plan. We also suggest that there be housing guidelines established that guide developers on the types of projects that would be welcome in the community. And there are good examples of guidelines that have been developed, including, how projects that are likely to get support from the Housing Trust, or CPA, as well as through LIP, which is the Local Initiative Program, which is the Friendly 40B projects. So if the town and the developer agree on basic terms and conditions of the development meets some pressing local needs that apply jointly to the state to get the go-ahead to submit a comprehensive permit to the ZBA. But it's like a partnership where the town is basically negotiating terms of a housing development. With more specific housing guidelines, these kinds of projects would be better facilitated. And then allow starter housing on non-conforming lots. This is something that the town has actually made some progress on. The town received a grant from the state to kind of map some of these units, these sites, and come up with a bylaw to address how they might be developed, even though they don't meet all the dimensional requirements. So it's a matter of revisiting all of that and seeing what might be accomplished. Pursue the use of tax foreclosed properties for affordable housing. I understand the states changed some of the regulations on this, and they're not usually a ton of tax foreclosed properties in communities where there are high housing values, but nevertheless makes sense to monitor. And if there is some tax foreclosed properties available, do an RFP, set them aside for affordable housing, maybe provide some subsidies. And this could relate to, some scattered infill housing in neighborhoods that make sense, based on character of those neighborhoods. So next one is to make suitable publicly owned property available for affordable housing. And there is precedent for this in Scituate. The units, the homes that were developed on Nelson Road, Carroll Litchfield Lane, and Cary Litchfield Lane, and Stockbridge Road are good examples of how the town has provided some property for the purposes of building affordable housing using the housing trust. There are additional properties that are identified in the plan, including the project that the Housing Trust has been working on, the Sale House property, which is really great. And then the Gate School, and there's from the Housing Authority, they think they might have some potential pieces of their property that could be further developed too. So there's still some opportunities out there. Support private development in line with local guidelines. Once again, having those housing guidelines with some information on what types of developments might be acceptable would be helpful. Also, it's recommended that the Housing Trust have early input to any kinds of even conceptual preliminary plans that developers might have that include some affordable units. And LIP being a great permitting tool in this kind of situation. Support small scattered site infill housing. The housing planners like to talk about the missing middle, being that there are, besides the single family detached housing, the larger apartments, there are opportunities in existing neighborhoods and infill basis to do some additional kind of housing types that still are the basic scale of those neighborhoods. And so we have encouraged that kind of development and provide some examples in the plan. And continue funding the Small Repairs Grant Program. The town has provided 2 allocations so far to the Housing Trust, and we basically recommend that that funding continued, and then the Housing Trust feels a need to tweak program requirements or benefits, that they should do that in line with what they're seeing through kind of implementing the program. So next slide. So we're basically, hoping to get some input on the housing plan, and we'll make changes with any additional comments from you folks or from the public. We need your approval, and we need the select board approval in order to submit the plan for the state. The state technically has like 90 days to review and approve the plan, but they're turning them around pretty quickly. So they're like 4 to 6 weeks. So that's good news as well. So that's it's kind of a quick race through the document. But oh, you know what? Let me just mention one other thing I should have mentioned before. Housing production we're actually submitting this plan as part of housing production requirements. And the, it's actually a subset of chapter 40B that was meant to provide local control, greater local control over housing. So if the town produced 0.5% of its year-round housing stock in any particular year, it could get what's called certified. Some people refer to it as safe harbor, where it wouldn't have to approve, it could deny any comprehensive permanent applications it believes weren't appropriate or didn't address local needs without the developer's ability to appeal. So, and if they produce 1%, you get, a full 2 years of this so-called safe harbor. And if I believe it's like 35 units for the half of 1%. So just to give you, should have mentioned that earlier. Anyway, questions?
Thank you. It's disturbing to see that we have a very long wait list for our affordable housing.
Yeah.
I was not aware of that.
It's 300 for Boston.
Wow.
It's what?
300 on a waiting list for Lawson Green, which is what you alluded to, combination of town and private development. It was,
Yes, that was an important project.
yes, it wasn't.
Yeah, and there were gazillion applicants. I think we did put down how many, but there were tons of applicants, and I did a lottery, and it still a wait list. And then you have the housing authority too.
And they're backed up as well.
They are.
And those the housing authority buildings are older than God.
That's true.
And
You need a lot of work.
they need a lot of work.
Yeah.
They're tiny.
Yeah.
Because back in the day,
Back in the day.
but now, Lawson Green, I think, is around 600 to 700 square feet. And I think the other are around 400
That's
square
right. Right. They're ubiquitous. You can go from time to time and say, that's housing for the elderly. I mean, they built a lot of those back then when they had a lot of resources.
Right.
In the state to do so. Nevertheless, I mean, something we didn't include in the plan, we could add is that there's some towns that are making progress in refinancing their units so that they can make improvements and maybe add additional units. So at some point, might want to consider doing that. Eden's doing it right now.
Well, we're considering the Gates School, I think
Yes.
63 units. And that's another 40, mixed use 40.
That's a real opportunity.
It is the one question I have is, North River Road, which was what's the name of that down on Kent Street?
It's on subsidized housing.
I know. Thing was, when it was approved, however many years ago, in perpetuity back then was only 30 years.
Mhm.
And my biggest concern over the years has been, at some point, they can be switched to condos.
Yeah,
How can we address that? How do we address that? Because I think it's real.
yeah, and I could say that the 30-year term had to deal with what financing was available back then. And if the financing that they got was for 30 years, that was kind of the in perpetuity piece. But maybe you can work with a developer who can be in conversation and work with whoever is the owner of this development to try to find ways to protect the project. In the market, it's hard, because if they're not affordable units, they don't have kind of attached regulations that require.
They are many of them, they're affordable and there are handicap units in there.
But they're not SHI units,
I don't think so.
Yeah.
This was,
privately owned and not. The only thing I can suggest is that
I think they are SHI units.
They are
Kent Street.
SHI?
I think Kent Street is.
I thought someone said they weren't. Guys,
The
I
only
can
one-
check on it right now.
The only one that's not on the subsidized housing inventory is 91 Front Street. That was developed under a local, and it didn't meet the criteria for getting on the subsidized housing inventory.
was that the Lotus project?
Yeah, we've tried twice to get it on, and they will not accept that project. That has affordable units, but it wasn't approved under a state program.
Okay,
What's the name of the project that we were talking about before?
We're talking about
North Road,
Kent Street.
Kent Village.
and Village.
Kent Village. No, that's it, 64 units. The affordability requirements expire in 2033. So you have some time to kind of ensure that they stay affordable. And there's a program called Chapter 40T that goes through the state, which has been pretty effective in dealing with these expiring use properties. So keep tabs on that.
This has been a concern of mine for years. It has. I brought it up a number of times prior to our planner. So it's something I think that 2033 isn't that far away.
No, you should start talking about it, talking to the owners now and, stating the town's strong interest in maintaining affordability. And then maybe talking to the state about it too. Mass Housing is listed as a subsidizing agency. So it's probably worth starting to track all this now.
Well, it was owned by the Catholic Church and they sold it to someone.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So-
Our list.
If nobody has any questions, comments on the plan, I would just recommend that we vote to endorse the plan tonight. But I may have to go to the select board, the Affordable Housing Trust, but it has to be submitted plus or minus. Our current plan expires December 15th.
Okay, we need to get this rolling.
Yeah.
Okay,
We need to get it rolling.
you did a terrific job.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Really.
It's great working with Scituate again. And Karen and Steve and the Housing Trust are, wonderful to work with.
You have a motion? I move to approve the town of Scituate housing production plan draft dated July 2025, prepared by Karen Sonnenberg, consultant with technical support from Karen Joseph, town planner, and to forward it to the select board for their approval prior to submission to the state for their approval with a cover letter to note that a primary objective in the housing plan needs to address infrastructure.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
I think we need a roll call. Miss Lewis is virtual.
Oh, it's,
Oh, yes,
this one was here?
Yes.
yes.
Okay. Yeah, this is your roll call vote. Ms. Baxter.
Miss Lewis,
Yes.
Miss Burke,
Yes.
Miss Burbine,
Yes.
Mr. Pritchard,
Yes.
and Miss Lambert.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. So appreciate it.
One of the things that's happened with this raise and reconstruct,
Yeah.
they're ripping down itty bitty houses
Yeah.
and making them gigantic.
Exactly. Yeah. I know. I've done some work in Needham. 98% of all new housing permits are based on demolition. I mean, you look at that town, it's changed
Tremendously.
tremendously.
And a lot of those big houses are low income, no kids.
Well, yeah, and then the building inspector said he would go into the houses, and there's like no furniture.
Yeah, I like
They're
that.
huge, but
They can't put it in.
there's no furniture. They're like maxed out on the mortgage.
Yeah.
And they have one paycheck away from foreclosure.
Oh, God.
Oh, well,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
good job.
It's 7 PM. We have a continued public hearing, special permit in the Humrock Village, residential overlay district, 21 Central Ave and Center of the
I know world.
Good evening, Chair. Yes, how are you?
Miss Joseph,
Good to see you too. Thank you.
this is
They
the,
did re-advertise because they then said that.
so they thought,
Yes.
Yes.
just making sure.
Oh, is there one?
All right, I just want, talking to stop. Excuse me, sir,
No, wait, one moment, we have to coordinate presentation.
fine, all right.
Okay, so we.
Oh, my God.
So yesterday. Anyone?
All right, we're all set?
Thank you.
That's okay.
All right. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 9 and 11, and with the Scituate zoning bylaw, Section 570, Hamilton Village Residential Overlay District, Section 750 Design Review, Section 760 Parking Requirements, Section 770 Site Plan Review, Section 940 Referrals, and the Stormwater Bylaw, Section 32050 of the General Bylaws, and its regulations, the planning board will continue to conduct a public hearing on Thursday, September 11th, 2025, at 7 p.m. in the Select Board's hearing room, Scituate Town Hall, 600 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, Scituate. The subject of the hearing is an application submitted by owners applicants South River Marina Realty LLC and Union Street Realty LLC for a stormwater permit, site plan review, a special permit under the Humrock Village Residential Overlay District, and additionally, a waiver/special permit for relief from the minimum parking requirements under section 760. The project proposes to combine the 21 Central Avenue lot and 7 Marshfield Avenue lot to maintain the existing marina, maintain but reduce the size of the existing boatyard/repair use, and construct 10 new residential townhouses with associated parking, site utilities, and site amenities on the property. The applicant is requesting a waiver from the required number of off-street parking spaces in connection with the proposed uses. The project site is located in the Business District, Hamilton Village Residential Overlay District, and the Floodplain Watershed Protection District. The property is shown on assessor's maps as parcels 72-19-5-0 and 72-19-3-B. Plans are available for review at the planning office, town hall, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chair Lambert.
I do believe that Town Planner would like to address the room first.
I would like to address the room. As you know, we have a 4-week deadline for submission of plans prior to a public hearing. Plans were submitted on 8/12. Plans were then submitted on 8/15. Plans were submitted 8/26. We had an email on 8/29 and an email on 9/4. The materials received after the deadline, some of them were included in the peer review, some are not. We will not tolerate this in the future. When the deadline is the deadline. If things come in after, it's not going to be reviewed. It's unacceptable. Everybody goes by this standard. That's point one I want to make. Now, second point is that I obtained a copy of the Secretary of Environmental Affairs, ENF certificate. I have forwarded it to all you planning board. I forwarded it to the building commissioner, conservation commissioner, board of health. Those comments, while not requiring an EIR, are very, very substantial in nature. Third point I want to make is that this is a special permit. Ultimately, it needs a 4/5 vote. So the board can approve it or not approve it. And the fourth point I want to make is that under section 570.4E, the applicant is not even supposed to apply for the special permit without having a chapter 91 or an Army Corps permit. All the work shown on the plan is part of the project, and that's what they've applied for. So I'm just informing the board that that's in the zoning bylaw. You know, the board can choose what they want to do with it.
So are you telling me that this application is incomplete as it stands right now?
I'm telling you that it doesn't have things that it needs for, you know, as a requirement. Right.
So, we have continued this how many times? Just
Once.
once?
Well, no, we continued it twice. They came in March, it was continued to April, and then it was there might have been a July, and then we're here tonight. This is only the second time they're actually appearing before.
But they're still not ready. Is that my understanding?
Well, they
They're
have
not
a lot of work to do.
They don't have all of their permits.
No.
And, you know, I perused that ENS report. There's concerns about it being a dune. It's concerned about all kinds of things. And frankly, where I'm sitting right here, right now, because this is a very important project, exceedingly important. I'm almost at the point to ask the applicant to withdraw without prejudice until every single permit that is necessary for this project is obtained. I'm not speaking for the board, I'm speaking for myself, because as has been pointed out, deadlines have been missed and missed and missed, and we're done with it. So, I would request, for me, you all don't have to pay any attention to it, to withdraw without prejudice until it's all put together. And if it takes 6 months, it takes 6 months. If it takes 3 months, fine. But this is just not acceptable to continually be late. Therefore, it's an incomplete submission as far as I am concerned. That's my 2 cents.
Mr. Pritchett?
Given the fact that there are missing permits, the,
Can I take them?
Excuse me?
Excuse me? Rebecca?
No.
Yes.
Oh, what?
I was speaking to Mr. Pritchett. Thank you, I thought I heard you. Were you, no? Hearing things now.
all right,
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Pritchett.
well, given that we're missing permits, and I assume those permits, along with the response to the secretary's certificate, could in fact change the design and configuration of the project, I would say we should wait until we have all of that worked out. Because we don't wanna have to do this and then come back and do it again. And we would like to have the benefit of those issues identified and addressed.
Ms. Lewis, you have an opinion here.
Can you guys go to somebody else for 1 second? I got a lot of
Sure.
noise in the background.
Sure, hold on, Ms. Burke.
No, I agree. I don't see the point in getting into the details of the comments if the chapter 91 has been filed.
And I am also going to agree with that. I know, it is frustrating as a board and as the town planner. We ask you if your information is going to be available at a certain time. We have peer review engineers that don't just work for us. And they have X amount of time, and we asked you and you agreed to that, and for you to come in late is really a failure on your part. We are willing to look at this when it is complete. But right now, I have to agree with Mr. Pritchard, which is, if we listen to all of these certificates of whatnot, this may end up being totally redesigned. I did read that ENF, there are huge issues. I'm not an engineer, but I understand coastal land flooding, I understand floodplains, I understand, FEMA areas in the floodplain and septic system is an issue. There's lots of issues that I think we would be best served if we waited until we got all of the answers.
Chair Lambert, I trust the board, please.
Sure.
Or you didn't get with that.
Yeah, I'm waiting for, Ms. Lewis,
I think she can hear, she just can't. She said,
yeah, I think that, okay.
All right.
Okay, yes, Mr. Brodsky.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Brodsky, and as you know, I represent applicants South River Marina Realty LLC, as well as Union Street Realty Trust LLC, and the managers of those companies are Ken Duvall and Scott Herzog, who are in the room this evening. And I'm here with Tom Brzezinski, our professional engineer, Romero, and Paul Liu, and Courtney Jerzinski from Main Street Architects, our architects, as well as Sean Pappich, who is our landscape architect, who is attending remotely. I think there's a misunderstanding regarding several of the things stated. If I might address, please, how we arrived here. We were last before the planning board in March. And the planning board made it clear that they wanted us to complete our NEPA process before we came back to it. And that took an unexpectedly long amount of time. The issues are unrelated to this board. Ultimately, we provided all of the information and received the secretary's certificate, as Ms. Joseph said, on September 8th. And importantly, no environmental impact report is required. We were at the end of that NEPA process required to dedicate a great deal of resources to provide additional information to NEPA in order to address concerns regarding the floodplain. Our submission was complete as of August 12th, but we had to make some changes in order to address those outstanding NEPA issues, and we did our best to get that information to the board as quickly as we could. We had this conversation with Ms. Joseph. We have no expectation of the board to close the public hearing and render a decision tonight. We knew that Mr. Chessie did not have sufficient time to address that additional information, and that we would be requesting a continuance. But we wanted to bring the board up to date with everything that we've done in order to further this process. I'm prepared to talk to the Chapter 91 issue, but perhaps I can speak a little bit about the NEPA process. And again, I know you have an expert on NEPA on board. The core elements of this project did not change through NEPA. We have the same flood compliant residential units. We have the same marine services building. The layout is the same. What did change were minor changes to the shape of the bulkhead, changes to the slope stabilization required on the southern portion of the site. We agreed to eliminate the existing outfall that serves the boatyard. Again, an environmental benefit that we were not required to do, but we did in order to, again, do our very best to address all of these issues. We reduced impervious and we revised the stormwater management system, again, all in an effort to satisfy questions and comments from the state regulators. Our initial stormwater management system complied with the stormwater standards, but we were asked to provide greater environmental protection, and we did that by eliminating the existing outfall and infiltrating stormwater. We have also previously changed the parking layout, and that's the subject of the parking waiver that we submitted, again, some months ago. So yes, we submitted additional information after August 12th to fill in the gaps from that last dash through NEPA. We missed a
one deadline on August 12th. We've done our best, but we had no expectation. In fact, I suggested to Ms. Joseph, or asked Ms. Joseph, if Mr. Chester was attending, because I suggested we should probably do peer review comments the next hearing, so that Mr. Chester would have an opportunity to complete his review. We can provide comments on his review to date, and then we can address all of those comments at once. Ms. Joseph told me that Mr. Chester was going to be here this evening. It's the prerogative of the board. Again, as I said, we have responses to some of Mr. Chester's comments that require minor changes. We were, Tom was prepared to talk about this tonight, but we had no expectation that we were going to get into that level of comments. And that all we intended to do was to bring you up to speed, explain what we consider to be minor changes. I do not believe, and I don't think the design team believes, that there are any major changes that need to be done to address these comments in the MEPA certificate. We've already addressed those. I'm happy to speak to those issues if you'd like. But this project complies with the zoning bylaw, and we are asking for relief with respect to parking, and I'm prepared to talk about that this evening. So that leads me to sort of what else was going on. So when we designed the project, we relied upon Mass DEP's presumptive historic high watermark, which is the limit of Chapter 91 jurisdiction. And that is a data layer based upon a mapping project that was performed by BSC Group in the early 2000s. That's what everyone uses in order to locate historic high water. That line aligns with the bulkhead. So all of this project, essentially all the land side improvements, are landward of Chapter 91 jurisdiction, which is why we went forward. You do have a problem with your HBR of the bylaw, which is that you can't get a Chapter 91 license without certain requirements. So one of the things you need is an order of conditions. So you need a project to get an order of conditions. Second, you need a zoning certification that what you're applying for complies with zoning. We can't get either of those things without coming to you. So that you have a mechanical problem with your bylaw. I don't know when it was, well, I know when it was drafted. I don't know who drafted it. They don't understand the permitting process. Regardless, based upon the presumptive line, the land side improvements, the residential units, the parking, the marine services building, the stormwater system are all landward of Chapter 91. What happened in MEPA was that there are some historic waterways licenses that relate to some marine railways that may or may not have been constructed in the 40s and 50s that show a different high water line. So what DEP said is, listen, we have these licenses, they show a different high water line. You need to file a jurisdictional determination with us, which we did, which again, part of the time we spent was filing a jurisdictional determination to confirm that the historic high water mark, the limit of DEP's jurisdiction, is correct and is the presumptive line. So it's our position that projects that the subject of this board is outside of DEP's jurisdiction, but we're going through that jurisdictional determination, which is why we filed this application. And we needed to file this application because we can't even get an order of conditions without applying for all obtainable permits. And we need a zoning certification from the town that says that what we're applying for is in fact in compliance with zoning. So you need a special permit. You have a mechanical problem with your bylaw. During the design process, I'm going to turn to parking. During the design process, we made a mistake, which we found and missed, which is that the bedroom counts changed, and we figured that out after we submitted the application, and I believe that Mr. Chesney had actually called it out. And so we also, when we first appeared for review in March, the question was, why do you need all this parking? Why don't you consider a parking waiver? So all of that resulted in us submitting a revised parking plan to minimize the parking in this area. And in order to support that request, we did a parking demand study. I'm happy to speak to the parking waiver whenever you wish to talk about the parking waiver, but we've resolved that issue. The third issue, which is equally complicated, I do a lot of work with coastal projects. This is not an unusual. I've done a lot of work in Scituate, which has to do with your town floodplain. So in addition to the FEMA flood zone, and this property is in several AE zones. The town in 1972 adopted its own town floodplain zoning bylaw. And just, you know, I know how to do this, right? It's not my first rodeo, it's not my first coastal project. I'm known for knowing about this stuff, that's why people come to me. Before we even began a design, we met with Mr. Vogel and Neil Duggan to confirm the limit of the town floodplain, because that would affect what we could do in this property. And I need to, I'm not gonna go into all the details here, and I wanna be clear that it's not our intention to criticize anyone or suggest someone made mistakes, but we came in with a line, which is the graphic depiction of the line, which is how the town of Scituate does that. That line was sort of 1/3 through the middle of the site. And in that meeting, we were told, no, that's not the line. The limit of the town floodplain is also along the bulkhead. And it's similar to what was used for the line for the condominium project at the village at South River. That's 33 Central Street. That was developed in 2008 and 2009. So we were told, yeah, you use that line because that's the line that they used for that project. Because that project, if you look at the permitting, doesn't speak to the town floodplain, where the location of the town floodplain. So we relied upon that determination where the town floodplain line is. We did all the designs. The client spent a fortune going through this process, and we filed with you. At some point, the building department changed its position on that determination. So we go to the town, we do what we're supposed to do. We get a determination where that line is, and now we're told that the building department has a different. We don't want to fight about that issue. I mean, we don't want to get a denial from you because you think the portion of the project's in the town floodplain and litigate whether it is in fact. And so, and we don't want to fight with Mr. Vogel regarding the location of the line. So what we did is we went back to the line that we actually had on the conceptual plans. And the interesting thing is that we know that this property was filled prior to the adoption of your town floodplain bylaw. And so we've submitted an application to the Zoning Board of Appeals, which is on for hearing, I think it's next week, asking for a special permit, essentially to continue the non-conforming use within the town floodplain. Our intention is to avoid a fight with this board, avoid a fight with the building department, and this is a way to do that because the town bylaw, the town floodplain bylaw, is supposed to really pertain to vacant land. You know, you didn't want people constructing houses on in the coastal floodplain, the town floodplain, on raw land. There are a series of cases, including the Doherty case, and that's exactly what that case addressed. It's a new house being constructed in an undeveloped portion. This site has been developed for a great deal of time, was filled decades ago. And I do not believe that it was the intention ever to preclude further development on this property by application of the town floodplain bylaw. I could go on ad nauseum about the town floodplain bylaw. It is crude and outdated. We're trying to respect this board. We're trying to respect the building department. And that is our permitting path forward in order to resolve those issues under your zoning bylaws. I should note, just by way of disclosure, I disagree, and we disagree as a team with how Mr. Chesia maps that, but that's not an issue for this evening. So again, we have our experts here. I was hoping that Tom could tell you what the design changes are, at least the site design changes. Paul could briefly go through, there were some slight reconfigurations of the locations of the residential units in order to accommodate the stormwater design. I don't think that Mr. Chesia has seen the landscaping plan, but we do have Sean Pappage available to at least give you a preview of that. I'm happy to talk about the parking waiver if you wish to talk about that. I'm happy to talk about any of your other concerns. But we've been on the sidelines for March, April, May, June, July, August, September. 7 months because we were asked to complete the MEPA process prior to coming back to you, and we've done that in good faith. And so, again, yes, we did submit additional information after August 12th on that, challenging Ms. Joseph on that. In a perfect world, given unlimited resources, during the summer when people are on vacations, I would have hoped that all the information subsequent to August 12th, we were still feeding information to MEPA and had to devote the resources to complete that. I've already talked to the Chapter 91 issue. You have a structural problem in your bylaw. We complied with the bylaw. And again, we're going to confirm that through the jurisdiction determination process with DEP. So with your permission, I'm certainly have no authority to withdraw this application without prejudice, but it's going to do no good because I can't get a Chapter 91 license without your special permit confirming that in fact the project, and again, the only thing that we believe that needs a Chapter 91 license are the bulkhead renovations, as well as the slope stabilization, because that's within their jurisdiction. We don't believe that any of these upland improvements are subject to Chapter 91 jurisdiction, and we need to confirm that.
Karen,
Well, I disagree with you. You didn't submit everything on August 12th, but I'm not gonna argue that point. You didn't submit the drainage calculations, you didn't submit other stuff. So please just, let's cut that out. As long as you understand in the future, everything is submitted at one time. That's what we want. Everything is submitted at one time, no exceptions.
I can.
and you have not submitted everything.
So we have Mr. Chess's partial comments. We're going to need to respond to those. So we're going to have some additional things that need to be done to the drainage plan and the drainage report in response to Mr. Chess's comments, which is how this works, right? We give you a drainage design. Mr. Chess reviews it. He says, no, I need you to change the invert of this pipe. We have to go back. We have to change the invert of the pipe. We have to change a particular stormwater BMP. And then we have to run the numbers again to prove that it meets standards. That's how this works. Again, I've been open and transparent with this board. We're not trying to pull something over in the town of this board.
Karen,
All right, so additionally, John did not review any of the landscape stuff. We didn't even get a response to comments till 9/4. We asked for that from the beginning, a response to comments. And we didn't get it because that saves time for the peer review engineer, and it also saves time for the design engineer as well. So it's up to the board if you want to keep going forward with this hearing, if you want to, talk about any type of parking waiver. There are issues in the MEPA certificate that need to be addressed. Test pits. There needs to be a different test pit that needs to be done.
So-
That was very clear in the MEPA certificate. And so, Conservation Commission has to make some determinations, that would certainly be beneficial knowing prior, for the planning board as well.
there's too much that needs to be
Well,
done.
It is a complicated project,
Very.
and, so you do have to take it apart in layers.
And there hasn't been time, we just got this report the other day. MEPA, right?
Yes, we just got it the other day.
The other day, and it's trying to go through it is difficult enough.
It's difficult to go through and read all the
And
comments.
the thing that bothers me too is, yes, I understand that building, that metal building's been there probably since the beginning of time. And those buildings and what have you was done prior to anybody even really caring about what was done on that property. No one cared. No one cared. You know what? We care now. We care now. And we care about what is built there, how it's built there. It is my understanding that CZM trashed the project. Is that not true?
You saw the comments, the CCM comments were included in
So,
the
yeah.
MEPA certificate.
So again, I stand by what I asked before, and it's not up to just me. Not everything is here, and we need to sit down and digest all of this stuff that has been submitted Some of it has not been submitted. I'd love to hear what Mr. Pritchard has to say. Steve?
Well, I would say that, things like waivers and stuff, fair to discuss, because, I think you're gonna have to go through MIPA and address the follow-up actions that they've identified,
Yes, sir.
right?
No, we're through with MIPA, we're done with the MIPA process.
Well, I'm reading their comments, so I would like to know how you addressed their comments in MIPA, right?
Yes, sir.
Which included the flood analysis, which included a determination by the Concom. I'd wait till the Concom made a determination, right? There's a lot that to unpack here, but a lot of follow-up recommendations. So if you're prepared to walk through it, I don't know that we're prepared to do it tonight because we just got the meeting certificate,
Yes, sir.
right?
As to sort of.
So I'm not prepared to entertain waivers and all of that if what's coming out of the MIPA certificate is going to change things, right?
So if I might, a couple points, if I might, Chair. Ms. Burbine, you're correct. The existing site does not comply with flood resistant construction requirements of the Massachusetts Building Code. What we're proposing does. So, candidly, if you deny this project, you're gonna continue to have non-conforming, outdated steel buildings in a floodplain. So this project is designed to bring the entire site into compliance with modern standards. There's presently an outfall directly into the suburb. It's perfectly legal to maintain that. We have our federal permit in order to continue that discharge into the river. We can continue to operate out there. We don't want to do that. The clients don't want to do that. They want to bring the site into compliance with federal requirements, state requirements, and your requirements, and that's what's driving this. With respect to CZM trashing this project, I'm going to be criticized for this. CZM trashes every single coastal floodplain project that I permitted within the last 5 years. I can give you MIPA certificates with the same comments for every single coastal project I have. It's de rigueur. We have addressed all of their comments. I can explain to you how each of these structures complies with the relevant wetlands performance standards, how each of these structures complies with the state building code. There's no additional work that needs to be done. I'd love to talk to you about, for example, the proposed sampling that CZM would like us to do in order to determine tidally influenced groundwater, because they recently did that to me on a commercial project with 132 units, 10,000 square feet of commercial. And my clients thought it was completely unnecessary for a project of that size to actually require to install groundwater monitoring wells with electronic data monitoring over 30 days. It costs, I don't know what it costs. It costs $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. We actually have better actual data that CZM ignored. We actually dug test pit holes throughout the site and observed actual groundwater conditions at high tide. And Tom can speak to the accuracy of that information. And so the suggestion that we need to install groundwater monitoring wells with electronic monitoring and monitor the site for 30 days is not going to produce any additional information. It's a burdensome cost to put on an applicant on a much smaller project than 132 units with 10,000 square feet of commercial. So, we're happy to talk about each and every one of these issues. Again, our purpose this evening was to tell you what's changed, give you an overview, refresh your recollection about this, and address what you want. We have no expectation that you were going to do anything this evening other than to hear our presentation and that we would have to come back to you. And as I said, we will have more information because by the time we come back to you, we will have been to the zoning board, we'll have been to the conservation commission. And I'm happy to speak to the determination that we need for the conservation commission for non-significance. If you'd like to learn about that, I'm happy to talk to you about it.
Mr. Brusky, unlike Ms. Burbine, I am not going to prosecute drugs. That's not my choice. I want you to go ahead with this project. I would like to see the project prepared. But I think in relation to what Mr. Pritchard said, we need to see these responses to LEPA.
We just received them also, so we're all in the same boat. Again, but we needed after 6 months to come back and start this process again, begin to inform you as to what we've done. Complicated issues. I mean, you probably haven't dealt with a project that's got a Chapter 91 jurisdictional determination. We have a unique floodplain issue that we need to resolve. We have a unique Conservation Commission issue that needs to be addressed. We're trying our very best to be upfront, transparent, but keep the process going.
So I understand, and everybody here should understand, that you don't just come to us. There's a lot of other boards that have to hear this. And there is a process on how to do that and what we expect to see first before you come to us. My personal opinion is that I think that you need to go to conservation and come back.
Yes, we have a Conservation Commission hearing
It's
scheduled.
my opinion that this is a barrier beach. It's on a coastal duty. That's my opinion. That doesn't mean anything. That's until somebody informs me otherwise, and I'm gonna wait for conservation to tell me that, because that is their opinion. So I don't want you to withdraw this. I understand what you're saying. I think that you totally understand where we're coming from, that we need everything in a timely manner. We are more than willing to hear everything. The problem that I have, not as an engineer, is I have trouble keeping track of this, because this is a big, big project. So a lot of stuff for me to read. I mean, I'm a librarian, but I can't do all of this, but it's, so I can do that. I do defer to the professionals, which are Mr. Chesia, Ms. Joseph, and Mr. Pritchard, a lot, who understand these things in a much greater sense than I do. So if they tell me that we need to wait because we need more information, I'm going to take that information, because in reality, Mr. Chester works for us, and I understand that you work for your applicant, so, but we are the governing board, so, I'm going to rely on Mr. Chesia and Ms. Joseph to tell us where we think that we should go with this project. Do you think that we should get these tonight, or shall we wait?
Well, I think if the board wants to continue with the project, I do think that you should make some decisions tonight. The first decision I think you ought to make tonight is that they would like a parking waiver. I mean, Mr. Chesia is recommending that be reviewed by an independent traffic engineer. And so does the board want to have, at the applicant's expense, through John Chesia, an independent traffic review the request for a waiver? The data for the waiver, they used a 1989 study, and 3 other towns, not all of them are quite local to here. But there might be a reason for that. It's because some of the towns around here don't always have quote marina parking. But, so I think that is something that you could decide if you wanted to keep part of this project going.
Well, we can entertain that, and we do require parking engineers frequently in big projects.
Yeah, I would say that becomes something that is somewhat of a risky proposition, in that we asked an analysis to be done for a parking waiver, and then all of these other things that happen change the design of the project. Does that change the parking analysis? And do they have to go back and do another parking analysis? It's no skin off our nose whether that has to be done once or twice. You'll have to pay for it. That's what it is. I'm trying to avoid making specific decisions that could be undone, but the things that are required to be addressed or recommended to be addressed in the secretary's certificate, and some of these still open issues, right? Like the Conservation Commission, like the zoning board, so, that becomes sort of a call on your side to agree, because if it changes, we're gonna have you go back and update everything, right? So, it's the chicken and the egg argument in a lot of ways. I'm willing to sit here and listen to it, I'm not willing to make, this is me, I'm not willing to make specific decisions that might be affected by a redesign after all of this additional work gets done, right? So
So, yeah,
that's my position.
May I just
I agree with Patty in that I don't necessarily need you to withdraw the project. You can delay it, defer it, whatever, but I think the nature of what we're asking is to make sure we're addressing, you know, particularly the comments that came back from you.
Then
Sure.
I would make a compromise then. Because I really need to review a lot of what has been given to us from the town planner, that we just move to continue it rather than withdraw it as of now. And that when you come back, you've been to conservation, you've been to zoning, and whatever else is outstanding, we have in a timely fashion so that we can review it adequately, so that when we come to make this final presentation, not final, but a presentation, we all are on the same page.
Can I just state one thing though?
What?
I mean, conservation's not gonna make a decision in one night. CBA's not gonna make a decision in one night. This is a lot of, it's a hefty project in multiple different areas for multiple different boards. They're not gonna make a decision in one night.
But we can't decide.
No, we can't, but I'm just
We
letting,
can't.
I'm just trying to put reality here. They're not gonna make a decision in one night, just like you can't make a decision in one night.
And there's so much of this that we need to go through ourselves. So,
Chair Lambert, if I might, again, we are prepared this evening to request a continuance so we can go to zoning, we can go to conservation. I agree, we're likely not going to get, a decision by the ZBA or the Conservation Commission this month. My hope is that we would have a decision in October, which suggests that perhaps we can look at a date at the end of October. I know that Ms. Joseph has suggested November. I mean, let's talk about that. I do want to speak to the traffic engineer because, again, I rely upon my professionals. They don't think we need a traffic engineer. We're talking about 81 parking spaces, 10 residential units, a roughly a little over 3,000 square foot marina building with one employee, and we have marina parking that's entirely consistent with the marina parking that exists presently. We're not expanding the marina. So it seems to be, we'd rather spend those resources on some of these other efforts rather than a traffic engineer for, again, a fairly minor waiver with respect to the marina parking. We have compliant parking for the residential units, we have compliant parking for the marine services building. We're asking for a theoretical reduction in the marina parking, which is actually more than the existing parking that we know that is used there. And we have current data. We've looked at this, the marina is not even full on the 3 busiest summer days. And proposed parking exceeds that number by some large number. And the reason we alluded to the parking ratios in other towns, Scituate's parking ratio is overly conservative. It's 1-to-1, one parking space for one boat slip. Most other coastal communities, require half a parking space per boat slip. That's the standard in the industry. I don't know why Scituate is the way it is, and that's why it works. It works with 1.5 parking space per boat slip because Tom can explain to you the parking demand side. Again, if in your judgment you think you need another engineer to speak on that issue, that's the purview of the board. We think it's an unnecessary cost that's not going to generate any additional meaningful information because we can show to you, give us the chance, based on the parking demand study, we have more than enough parking on our busiest day on July 4th at the height of the season.
How many slips out there?
Excuse me?
How many slips?
90 slips. That's correct. And that's what creates the requirement. You need 90 parking spaces for those 90 boats. Again, the busiest day of the year after year after year, I think we need in the order of 40 parking spaces, and we're providing 45 by the parking waiver, which is 0.5 to 1, which is how Hingham does it, how Wareham does it, and how all of these other coastal towns do it.
With all due respect, that's fine, except, every year, we have to hear from, the boat club, the yacht club, the public grant club, there's not enough parking, there's not enough parking, there's not, and the whole thing about this whole Pier 44 thing going away is a huge issue about parking. So parking is a big issue for us.
I understand, Ms. Lambert, I don't think you've received any complaints regarding
No.
parking at this facility.
No, not at that.
Because we have the room to do it, it's not the yacht club, it's
No,
not.
as I said, when we hear about parking, no, and
Which is why we're addressing it in a principal fashion. The real question is, do you really want us to have to pay the freight for traffic engineer? It's pretty simple stuff.
So I guess I'd like to hear from our expert on that.
So I think you do want a traffic engineer for multiple reasons, not just the parking, the layout is screwed. There's a 24-foot paved drive with a walking strip on it that makes it narrower. There's shell parking, it's called, but there's no parking in it. The parking lot that's tandem has extra space by the looks of it. The whole layout's a little, there's multiple things. They didn't ask for a special permit on the tandem or valet or whatever they're gonna do there, but they need that. And so there's a whole host of issues. There's not just this single issue. And it seemed to have someone that's specialist in that, look at it on a comprehensive basis for the whole plan at the site. I don't think that we have an issue with traffic generation out on the roadway. I mean, it's Humrock on a busy beach day, there's gonna be more people going to the beach than are gonna be going by here. But I do think that the internal layout, circulation, and all those things with the multiple permits could benefit from an expert in traffic. And I'm not an expert, but I can look at the thing and say this is very different than anything I've ever seen for parking lot layout or anything like that.
And Chair Lambert, Mr. Brzezinski is here if you'd like to hear from him on these issues. Again, it's the judgment of the board.
I'm gonna propose that we wait. And I understand this whole thing, and I'm really, Mr. Chester's comments, which is like, what space surrounds the garage, or 2 different units, should not be space. So there's a lot of stuff for us to digest here as well, and I understand the complexity of this project. I'm going to, ask that you address REBA issues and come back to us as one project in come.
So I need some guidance. There's not, from my perspective, after reading the Secretary's certificate, we've addressed all of those concerns. What we need to do is we need to go to the Conservation Commission and get a determination of non-significance with respect to coastal dune. So just so you understand, this area is simply mapped, it's mapped by the Commonwealth as Barrow Beach. Vast portions of Hull are mapped as Barrow Beach. Under the wetlands regulation, the definition of Barrow Beach says, oh, it's gotta be either a coastal beach or a coastal dune. A coastal dune, I think we know, is an elevated landform of sand that protects houses behind it. It moves back and forth, and you don't want to interfere with the movement of the dune. There is no coastal dune on the site. This is a perfectly, roughly level paved site. There's no elevated landform. I'm sure there was a coastal dune prior to the filling of the lot in the 1800s. There's no coastal dune there presently. But CZM maintains that it's coastal dune, which is their standard procedure. In Hull, right, between Nantasket Beach, the seawall, Nantasket Avenue, which is a DCR road, you've got George Washington Boulevard, and which is a state highway, perfectly flat, fully developed. They say, oh, it's mapped Barrow Beach, that must be a coastal dune. It's not a coastal dune. But rather than argue that regulatory issue, the state building code under Appendix G allows the Conservation Commission to issue a determination of non-significance. They do this in Hull all the time because they don't have a real coastal dune. I mean, if you're in the alphabet streets, all those little houses jam-packed together, if they treated that as coastal dune and you needed to improve your house and it's a substantial improvement, more than 50%, you'd have to elevate that house in the middle of all the other little lots up on pilings, which no one wants. And it's unnecessary. Excuse me?
I don't think Hull's relevant.
Yeah, it's-
What we're
Well,
talking
I'm
about.
explaining to you,
No, I know.
it is relevant.
It's not, actually. We're talking about project in Scituate. And
And-
it says here, as I'm reading,
yes,
it says, definition of coastal dune and the Wetlands Protection Act Regulations 310 CMR 10.28 states that the artificial fill in coastal dunes that perform the functions of storm and flood control meets the definition of coastal dunes.
and Ms.
Which
Berg,
it says previous to that, the ENF states that the cores taken on the project site show that the sediments below some artificial fill are coastal dune and beach sediments.
so.
So why are we having this conversation
Sure.
about Hull?
So I'm happy to answer your question. In order for there to be an artificial dune, it's a man-made dune, you need an elevated landform. So when you do a dune restoration project, you bring in sediment from another source and you build an artificial dune, that's an artificial dune. The sediments that are buried beneath 4 feet of historic fill and paved over, I respectfully suggest, Suzanne is wrong, that is not an artificial dune, and I've got the cases to prove it. I'm happy to give you the cases if you want to read it.
Well, I don't think it's a thing you need to argue.
No.
No, I know, I'm just answering.
We're not gonna address
Well, I was just
coastal
wondering
dune.
why you were going on about Hull.
Because they have more experience dealing with this determination
We're
of
not.
non-significance than does Situate.
Okay, well, we're not Hull.
And it's on the other side of the water, so,
But at the end of the day, we're not making a determination about coastal zone.
No,
Right.
I'm just trying to give you information. You asked me about the MIPA
Completely
certificate.
understand it, but that's gonna be argued in a different way.
Correct.
yeah,
Okay.
correct.
And so the question becomes, I'm assuming why you're arguing it is that you think you're going to win the day on this and not change the layout of this facility and all of that. And that you want to move forward with some of these things,
Yes, sir.
which, you know, as far as I'm concerned, if you want to do that and you wanna spend your money to do it, then you can do it. But then, you know, if it changes, we are gonna ask you to address it again, right?
Yes,
So just fair warning, right? And, you know, I take to heart John's comments about the need for a traffic engineer to look at the internal layout of this thing. I'm not a traffic engineer either, and I would tend to err on the side of what our experts are recommending here. So from that perspective, that's what I would say on that subject. But the coastal dune, regardless of what Hingham or anybody else is doing, right, is gonna be determined by the Scituate Conservation.
Yes, sir. So again, if that's the choice of the town, the board, we understand, you know, just provide us with a proposal, please review, so we make sure that the consultant has the right qualifications. And we'll go through the peer review consultant selection process.
I think we have to find,
Well, John's gonna have
Consultants.
to come up with a recommendation
Yeah.
for somebody to do this work.
that'd be fine.
That'll be fine.
Now, the question is, will you have all of your ducks in a row by November?
So this is what I expect we will have, Ms. Burbine. We will have all of our responses to Mr. Chesia so that he can complete his peer review and by November. So what I typically ask is that the engineers talk amongst themselves, go back and forth. Hopefully, they can resolve all of, or most of the significant comments. I expected that to be completed. I don't know where we're going to be vis-a-vis Concom. I don't know where we're going to be versus zoning. I'm certainly not going to have a jurisdictional determination from Mass DEP by November. That takes a couple of months. But so reasonably, I think what's within this board's purview, I believe that we will be in a position to move forward, and I don't anticipate any additional information unless something unexpected happens at one of these other boards. It's the best I can do to answer your question.
Aaron?
So, two things. So, John's already completed 2 reviews. He stopped and he didn't review all the material. So that will be a third review. He's contracted for 3 reviews. We have time on November 20th. We have time on December 18th.
So, well, before we make that decision, when do we get the unpacking, if you will, of the secretary's certificate and the action items that have to be there?
So again, we do not believe that there are action items as a result of the secretary's certificate.
I'm reading it differently, you're recommending you do things, so.
But
So
we don't
we
think that they're necessary. So for example,
I get it, right, but somebody has to go, because absent anything else, it says, you know, you should do a geomorphic analysis, floodwater, et cetera. You're saying you don't need to do it, but these have to be addressed.
no, sir, they don't. Those are recommendations to the local boards as to things that they
Right.
may be required.
And they're
We're not required to go back to, as you know, we're not required to
I'm
go
not
back to.
asking you to go back to me, this is for the planners,
Yes, sir.
right? So we've got a list of recommendations here
We,
in the secretary's certificate
yes, sir.
that we are asking you to review and unpack for us. If you say that the recommendation that, you know, you consider updating a particular analysis, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things in here, right? I would like to have a response to all of this,
Well, happy
and we
to-
just got
yes,
it, right?
But we're happy to do that. So for example, we did an extensive survey-based flood study, which was more than sufficient to address CZM's concerns regarding that. You can never satisfy CZM, and they want more. We don't think that that's necessary. We'll put that in writing. And in fact, I mean, you should have copies of Tom's very detailed flood study. Again, with respect to, for example, the groundwater monitoring, the title, we have actual test pit data taking it high tide. There's no need to incur the cost for that.
Wait a minute, I didn't give the board anything I didn't give the board all the NEPA stuff. Because that's not my job, that's, you submitted that to NEPA for their comments.
It's available to
So-
anyone. I assume if you want to
So
look
if
at it,
you
you can
want
look
to
at it.
submit it to the planning board as part of your thing, you need to resubmit it.
We're happy to provide all of the NEPA information. We provided official copies to the town. It's on the NEPA website. We're happy to give 4 copies of it to the board so that you have your own personal copy.
You have a 5-member board.
5 please. So I'm happy to provide you with five copies of the
No,
NEPA.
I want hard copies.
We've already emailed electronic copies to,
But-
Joseph has all of the stuff.
So, let's just get back to
Okay.
what we're requesting, right?
We will give you a
NEPA
letter.
certificate, you're gonna go through it, and say, these are the recommendations
Yep.
in the NEPA certificate. These are our responses. If your response is not necessary, not necessary, not necessary, I'm hoping you're gonna say more than that. You're gonna say it's not necessary because,
I understand.
alright? And that's what we're asking for.
Yes, sir. Happy to do so.
All right, Karen.
You
So-
have a very busy schedule coming up, I mean, if that's all you're looking forward, we could probably do it on October 23rd, but we have a stormwater public
Yeah, I
hearing.
already do that.
And that seems like we get into hefty things. We have another big project on November 13th that you've already continued a project to. You only like to do one big project tonight, so that the applicant gets your undivided attention. So November 20th is the first date that I have available.
Do you feel you'll have all of your ducks in a row or most of them? When do you think you might get to EP? Or does that not matter?
Yes, to kill bills first.
Yeah.
Usually it takes several months for DEP.
If you have to come to us before you go to DEP?
So are you talking about the jurisdictional determination?
Yeah, you don't need, us determination.
No, that's a separate thing, that's correct.
Then I misunderstood this.
There are 2 things, there's the jurisdictional determination and whether you need a chapter 91 license. Whether you need a chapter 91 license is dependent upon where the line is, that's what the jurisdictional determination fixes.
So, Mr. Brodsky, I just want to say one last thing, which is, Humrock was developed many, many years ago when it was a summer community. It's one, right? Look at the lighthouse the same way, look at the avenues the same way. They were basically summer retreats. Now, is the onus on us is to make sure that health and safety is addressed. There are already huge concerns about Humrock in the wintertime being cut off, without the parks come way over, people cannot be in and out. So if you, I don't want you to think that we're picking on this one project in particular, it's a place that I've only done one project. I know that it can be very controversial because of what it is, but it's our job to make sure that the people who live there and people who operate a business there are doing it safely. And that we have to cross all of our T's and dot all of our I's to make sure that those people can operate and live in a safe environment. So that's why we're asking you for all of this.
We understand, Chairman, but I remind the board supported the remapping of Humrock to allow this type of development
Absolutely.
on this particular
Yep.
property. So, I mean, we're all moving in the same direction. We want to have responsible, environmentally sound redevelopment and not maintain existing non-compliant
That's right.
structures and uses.
So if we seem to be a little picky unity, this is why, it's because we are trying to make sure that we're all moving forward in the same direction. Does anybody in the audience have anything to say? Sir, your name and address, please.
Sure, Russell Clark, 4 Central Avenue. We own the property at 8 Webster Street, which abuts this property, kind of in the square of it. And I wish you both good luck. I'd like to see it develop, I really do. I do have a number of concerns I think I stated in the letter that I wrote back in February. And one of the things that was addressed tonight that I'm very concerned about is the parking, and I will say that. Especially for the 3 months of the year. It is an issue. I don't know where it's not an issue, but yeah, it can be an issue. So I just hope you look at it and do it, because once this project's done, it's done. So I respect the fact that you're pumping the brakes a little bit and taking your time to make sure everything is done right. So I thank the board for that. Thank you. That's all. And like I say, I do wish them the best of luck, but I just want to make sure it's done right.
Anybody else in the room?
No.
Anybody online?
So, one other comment. You say you have people here to address certain things tonight,
Yes, sir.
right? To the extent that that will keep the ball moving and would be worth covering, then I would say I'm willing to listen to it tonight.
What would you like to tell us?
But I guess that's your call on this one.
It's just, we do have Mr. Brzezinski, we have our engineer and architect. Can they take a few minutes so that Tom can explain to you the changes in the site plans, because they just give you a brief summary. We won't be going into great detail, and Paul just explained the changes in the location of the units.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I will, Tom Brzezinski from Maryland Engineers, I will try to be brief because it's already been a long discussion. All right, we already know what the project entails and where we're going with this. You know, some of the biggest changes we made is last time the board had a lot of concerns over the amount of impervious area. So we have dramatically changed that. We have a tremendous reduction in impervious area. It was suggested that we provide different types of service treatments because we had to meet on site, so that's exactly what we did. We tried to get a little creative with that. I do say I would encourage the board to go ahead and look at the layout sheet. But that gives you a pretty good overview of how we're addressing the parking here.
Can you help me out? I have so many.
Yeah, it's sheet C 3.1.
Excuse me?
It's sheet C 3.1. All right.
I'll share it as well.
She's gonna put it up on the screen.
Oh, thank you. Like to see that one. Thank you.
Yeah, so,
Yes, yeah.
so there's been a tremendous amount of effort put in to date on this thing, and I apologize, we just had so much going on with this thing.
Yeah.
But we have, the units themselves will have brick pavers. And they'll be underneath. We were planning on concrete. They're brick pavers, the driveways are brick pavers. If you see where the circled numbers are, those are the number of parking spaces that we have per unit. We've tried to segregate them. Yeah, you want to go in a little bit, please?
I can't see certain numbers.
She's controlling.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So, yeah, just scroll up a little bit so we can catch more of the project. Thank you. So, the circled numbers are where we have spaces. We've even color coded them. You can see that we've got the condo units, each have 3 spaces. We're trying to segregate them with landscaping. And every unit has 3 spaces. We've tried to open up the middle for safety. The middle, we have a drive coming down. We have asphalt for the main drive, asphalt in the marine industrial area. In front of the condo units, we went with seashells. We thought it would provide a nice look to the area. I mean, we could do more of that. We have gravel. We wanted to go with gravel because we're trying to segregate as best as we can the condominium use with the marine use, and then the offsite use because it's still a functional marina, and provide parking. And then we have storage for boats. So that's what on the Central Ave side is going to be is boat storage. So that's why you see the red spaces there. The gravel area, if we labeled it as gravel parking, we could just put gravel area, no parking, and if that satisfies the board and the neighbor, we're happy to do that. The one peculiar item that, you know, we've been kind of puzzled over is the need for inside pedestrian connection. We've been wrestling with that, and maybe we need a little guidance from the board. We're proposing a painted 6-foot wide line, which John is correctly referring to. If we add that in, we've got 18 feet. You can see we've got flexibility to move that over in the seashell area away from the drive to make it safer, and then we can connect it. I don't know how much of a need or practical use that is, or people are going to use it, because basically this is going to be a condominium community in that middle area now. It's like a neighborhood. So it's going to be fairly wide open.
Tom, I should point out that we're providing, that doesn't presently exist, a lateral access way along the shoreline that's open to the public.
Yeah.
So there is lateral access.
Yeah. So
over to
if
the
you
left.
could,
And that's next to the sidewalk, correct?
yeah,
Correct.
well, if you could come up a little, Courtney, so Marshfield Ave.
So
Right here, yeah, that's
the
the
public
next one.
access way all along the shoreline
Yeah.
from Marshall Avenue that then connects up to
It's a
Webster.
much easier and better place for the pedestrians to walk. And then if you come down to Webster Street, please, the other way. You can see that then it connects and it's painted nice and slightly over there. Those purple spaces are all managed by the marina. They'll have keys so they can move the vehicles they need when they need to use the travel lift. Most of the boats are put in by the new boat ramp itself. And then we tried to take into a lot of things that CZM was looking for. Some of the comments that were received was to see if we could taper off the natural coastal bank a little bit more. And we did that in the corner. Is there anything we could do with the steel sheet piling? We did that, and then we angled it around. We did it in the boat drop area. We angled it around. And on the north side of the red line where the boat travel lift is there, we're going to slope that down. And then we're going to put in, keep going up, yeah, right there. That's going to slope down, and we're going to put in mixed cobble berm. Now, we've got a lot of plantings. I know that hasn't been submitted. This vegetated natural bank planting. Sean's done a planting plan. Could you just briefly go to the next sheet? So the middle, that striped 6 foot wide, I don't know how much practical use it has. Do we need to seek a waiver for it? I don't know. It's up to you folks, hopefully, to give us some guidance. And yeah, I gotta take the hit on some of the stormwater stuff because we jumped right out of MEPA right into this. And, you know, I really do, I like to get things in time, for John to have time to digest it, and then for me to reply and work out issues with John. John and I have worked together for a long time. And we added, you know, we changed the stormwater quite a bit. We got rid of all those bioretention fabricated structures the town doesn't like. We do have some hydrodynamic separators. I'm gonna have to iron it out with John. He's got some concerns over top and approval and stuff like that. We've gone to put in sediment traps, rain gardens, surface infiltration ponds, do another sediment trap. We have one on the south and the north end, so we don't have point source discharge, level spreaders, to let it go down the slope and not cause erosion like it causes before. And that's part of the other thing when we look at what's happening out here with the damage it causes. The area that gets the damage is the corner. So by us hopefully getting rid of those sharp edges, getting rid of those blocks, it's gonna soften the flows in and out.
These are the curves that Tom's talking about. This is the bulkhead. We've rounded these edges based on recommendations from CCM. We've rounded these edges here,
Yeah.
and we've redesigned the interface to the.
That's not gonna stick
We call
out
this.
around
This
it.
is called the travel lift pit because there used to be a big machine, a travel lift. There's no longer going to be a travel lift there, but this is falling into the river, so it's got to be addressed, and that will be used in order to service boats.
And we did put a big amount of effort into the soil test. And, you know, to be quite honest, we did it in compliance with what the town regulations and you know, were and for DEP. We had 3 soil evaluators out there, the town consultant, 14 tests. We also had a survey crew out there all day as well. And we documented where we had redox morphology, which is that the groundwater sits and saturates, depletes the soil and is saturated for an extended period of time. So it doesn't form overnight. We monitored that. We monitored that the whole day. Now, I get it. We did it during the whole high tide for that day. We left the holes open an hour and a half, all of them past that time. And any changes were documented and reflected. And that's what we held. So I don't know where we might have gone amiss, because I think we've done everything in accordance with the regulations and the requirements. Now, I get it. You know, CCM wants to really, you know, do a scientific study on the groundwater out here, but this honestly is a redevelopment. And the reason it's a redevelopment is because we have substantially less impervious area. And we have a site here where it's not really treating stormwater well at all. And it's 90% impervious. And we're putting a huge amount of effort to try to treat in the stormwater so make it clean up the outstanding water resource area. And anybody that's dealt with me knows that I am more of an environmental engineer. I want things to look better when I leave it. That's what I do on every single project for 40 years. So I hope to accomplish that here. And then we've taken a lot of attention to detail. I mean, things to consider for those 2 large buildings that are there. We've got an 8,515 square foot building. It's a flood barrier. And it takes water and it pushes it onto the abutting properties. The same thing happens with the 7,200 square feet of combined structures that are near Marshfield Ave. And now, what are we doing? We're making much smaller structures here, 3,600 square feet. We're holding the existing setbacks to Webster Street. And then we've done all these structures here are gonna be elevated, the residential structures, substantially elevated. Allow floodwaters to flow. The other thing I was very concerned with was how do we make sure when the floodwaters recede? What do we do with it? So that's why we've got swales proposed all around the properties. So we stop what happens out here. I spent a tremendous amount of time and effort on the flood analysis study to see what happens out here. And I can tell you this, the regulatory agency determines where floodways is FEMA. That's it. You can call the FEMA directors up in Boston. I've been to many certification seminars with the FEMA hydrologists who've been there from Washington, D.C. They make that determination. And if you really dig into what has FEMA done out in this area here? They have studied the living heck out of this site, okay? It's all documented and highlighted in my report. Our client went to a tremendous amount of expense to study that. It encompassed a 148.5 acre survey of this area to analyze what's been going on, additional GIS study, studying the flood insurance study. And when you look and dig into the FEMA reports, they've used 4 or 5 different national methodologies to study this and establish what's going on out here. And the reality of the situation is, yes, this is a flood zone. No doubt about it. But the VE is at the barrier wall, okay? There was some area where it's not clear when you look at the FEMA maps, where is the limit of wave action? So the VE, where they stop a VE, those waves are 3 feet. Where the limit of wave action line is, which in the comments, you'll see that it's within just 30 feet within inside the wall. That's a 1.5 foot wave. There is not a single person that can say, and this is per the FEMA mappings, we are in the zone AE, which means we don't get the velocity actions. And we've taken into consideration coastal resiliency to elevate these structures properly. What happens with the flooding out here, and I've been coming out to the Humrock since 1978, is the actual flooding happens about 6,500 feet north of the site of the low point where all the stones get tossed over. And then what happens is the barrier wall deflects it, and somewhere around New Wall Street where the wall ends, then it comes around there. The flooding in this area undeniably starts from the South River at the low point. It comes up, and Mr. Clark he mentioned this once before, and when it gets to around elevation 10, that's when you see the flood waters merging. We know that because we surveyed Central Ave. It's how this elevation is coming up and getting in here, and then it emerges from all sides. So our design has taken that into consideration. So that's where we're at. As far as stormwater compliance, there's no untreated stormwater under this new development. We are looking for a waiver of the peak rate is allowed for standard 2. We have limited all outlets. We talked about that. Let's talk a little about stormwater recharge. The required recharge volume is 1438 cubic feet. We're proposing 8,923 cubic feet. The required water quality volume, all of this is 1 inch. The land use with high pollutant low is 2836. We're providing 8932. The other thing that we need to do is pre-treatment, 44%. We meet that. These are all issues I have to work out with John. So we did plan for this for the land use for high pollutant low, critical resource area, redevelopment. John's looking for additional information on the O&M plans and things like that. And I already talked the point about the soil testing and our separations to groundwater. Based upon the results that we have, and John and I always work out things better when we have a chance to sit down and go through plans. I feel we have the 2-foot separation among the results we have. I think that's about it. I should stop talking.
All right. Paul, briefly.
I think you should have gone first. Go ahead.
Want to say something?
No.
Well, if you just want to
Yeah,
briefly explain how.
Briefly, from our standpoint, we made some adjustments based on the public access along the walkway, so we shifted a couple of units on the bottom towards Marshfield Ave to the line, help with better drive access. There was questions about the garages and, people questioning enclosures underneath these. These are not enclosures, so we've alluded to where the garages are being, pavers and having slats. We've provided details to that now, so hopefully that would better explain how we're looking at those areas. Everything else under there is complete pile foundation, is open. As Tom alluded to earlier, we also take into consideration resiliency, so we elevated these things beyond just design flood elevation. And then we just went back to the marine building just to make sure that everything, because it is a public facility, that everything will line up with, International Building Code and 5.1 CFR. So on our end, it was definitely a lot simpler, but we just made some updates and hopefully clarification to the drawing.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, how did you address the garages not being barriers to flow?
Can you go down, Cory?
You know,
To the
was the
detail.
comment, Mr. Pritchard, I didn't hear your full comment.
I asked how you addressed or changed the garages
So
so that they are not a barrier to flow.
the garages were never enclosed. Under ASC, it is a definition of an enclosure, walls all the way around the space. They were never intended to be enclosed. It's a little tougher because of the way the renderings are in the heights to see that stuff. So we more evaluated for you folks in detail on how we plan to slab the garage.
So they are not enclosed or are they enclosed?
They're not enclosed. Definition,
So how you plan to side the garage?
it's not sided, it's like lattice, it's slatted.
So it's open, correct, floodwaters?
Correct.
It won't be common area.
No, 100%.
And
That was not clear on our last submission, to be honest with you, in detail, so that, and it's hard in renderings, even us that look at them all the time, we understand that. So that was where we went back.
So when there's a storm, you have to move the car. That's like the whole White House.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a pretty common occurrence here in Scituate.
Yes.
And besides the lattice work, there's no other structures that under the.
Nope.
Under the.
No, and that was confusing with the renderings too, because it's completely open, so. Flood vents in the doors, like that, so, yeah. And there's no interconnection between the garage.
That top one right there is a good view to show you how open they are, on the left and right in the middle.
Yeah, right here.
And on the side, they're completely open.
So what I can't really tell if I'm looking at it, so.
So,
It's far enough away.
yeah, these would be open.
So that's
this
not lattice work or anything, the
Nope.
white area, that's.
Nope, this is
clear-
completely wide open.
Clear flow.
Pile foundation, that would be your slatted area. And then, graphically, we enlarge the detail to show you how it's not an enclosure. It does allow.
And when you look at these heights, they're under 35.
We did it to grade, and it was easier for us to work at grade, knowing that it's a design flood elevation is based off grade. I don't like how some architects draw things flat all the time. We should be relative to grade. So that was kind of, a graphic thing for us. So we corrected it to at least show that we did work, very diligently to keep these things under the 35 feet. We thought about mechanicals on the roof, out of the flood area, all that kind of stuff, which was kind of some of it dictated through your guidelines as well, which is helpful.
Appreciate it. All right.
Okay.
Are we all set here then?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes,
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, just, I have no problem, yes.
I guess there was one question about the marina building, the garages, I was confused. Is the garage at the marina building gonna be lattice too, or is that gonna be a solid structure? Is that on pilings or not
So-
on pilings?
That's why we need a determination of non-significance, because we can't elevate the marine service building and drive boats in and out. So it is elevated, but it's a conventional A-zone foundation with flood.
So if the
depths.
existing building affected the abutters, and now you're gonna raise the new building, and there's still gonna be a building there, wouldn't that affect the abutters as well?
So we're shrinking the building substantially, and we're allowing water to flow through the building. It's required under the building code in order to bring it into compliance. We
But is the
can't-
elevation of the building being raised?
Yes, but we're also,
So those existing buildings were lower, so the water would flow through it at a lower elevation.
no, the water is, it's a barrier and it goes around it. So the new building's gonna have flood vents, it's gonna have double stacked flood vents.
But then you're raising the elevation of the earth,
Yeah.
so that'll be the barrier.
We were also swelling away.
swaling it behind between your property and the back to get it around.
But when it floods, I don't, I'd have to see the plan, could you show me that on the?
Can't find any
on the-
water.
So, Mr. Clark, we're happy to meet with you privately and
Sure.
explain what we're
Yeah.
doing here.
That's, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to.
No, that's fine, and I just, again, I wanna bring it up publicly, as I said before, I do wanna see something happen, I just don't wanna be adversely affected.
That's the point.
And then now's the time to speak up.
That was the next.
All right.
All right, so November 20th at 6:30 PM, and continue the time for action until January 30th, 2026.
I move to accept the applicant's request to continue the public hearing for a special permit for the Southern Marina Development in Hammerock Village Residential Overlay District, 21 Central Avenue and 7 Marshfield Avenue for applicants Southern Marina Realty LLC and Union Street Realty LLC until November 20th at 6:30 PM and continue the time for action until January 30th, 2026. Okay.
I'll need a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Burbine? Yes. Mr. Pritchard?
Yeah.
Ms. Burke?
Yeah.
Ms. Lewis?
Rebecca there?
Is she there? Rebecca?
She is there, she just has to unmute.
I can ask Miss Lewis to unmute here if she is
Yeah, I'm
there.
asked.
No response.
All right, but we still have,
There's 4 of us.
still 4 of us.
And
I'm
Ms.
here.
Lambert.
Okay.
Say yes.
I said yes. Oh, you didn't hear me. Sorry.
No, we didn't catch you.
And Ms.
Yep.
Lambert.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you for your patience.
I move for 5-minute
Recess?
Yes.
Second?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Justin.
I'm sorry, Miss Lambert, are we taking a little break there? Yes, is that correct? You got it, you got it.
Okay, reconvene the meeting of, what day is it, September 11th, 2025. Good evening, gentlemen. We're here for Form A, and a not for 0. Whoops, how are you tonight?
Great.
Sorry for the delay.
Process.
Okay, process there.
Thank you. For the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering. With me is the applicant, Eric D. Tomaso. We're here seeking an A&R endorsement for property off of Grove Street. It's located in the Residence 1 zoning district. Property's a little over 8 acres in size. The proposal here is to cut out one residential lot. We've identified it on the plan as lot 1. It has 175 feet of frontage on Grove Street, which is a public street accepted by the town. It meets the frontage requirement and it meets the area requirements, being minimum 1 acre. This lot is 47,446 square feet. It does have some wetlands on it. We did go to the Conservation Commission and the wetlands on lot 1 were verified by the commission prior to our submittal. We believe it's entitled to endorsement, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Karen? I believe it has access and frontage, so it's entitled to endorsement. I would like a note added to the plan that parcel A is not buildable as currently shown on the plan.
Parcel A is the rest.
Parcel A is the rest of it.
Parcel A, while it's not the applicant's intention to build on it at the present moment, does have frontage and it has upland area. We're not identifying it as a lot for building purposes. We're not asking for any determination on lot A. I would hate to say that it doesn't comply with something.
It's not buildable as currently shown on the plan, because it's parcel, call it parcel A. It's like you said, it's not a lot, so it's just it's just a warning to somebody that, you know, the planning board never intended to sign off on parcel A. But that can be construed later on, people have construed other things, so, I mean, that's my recommendation to the board.
What's the, repeat, sorry, the note?
Parcel A is not buildable as currently shown on the plan. We can change it, I mean, it needs to say something to that effect.
Yeah, I'd certainly be willing to hear some other options to that. I'm just thinking down the road, 15 years, 20, 30, whenever it happens.
Next year, yeah.
Someone comes along with parcel A. I don't know why it, you know, couldn't be buildable at that point in time, or what would require them to come back to the planning board at that point.
Well, it would be a lot then. It's not a lot now, it's a
So-
parcel, that's, you can
Right,
be
we're
thinking
identifying
that.
it as a parcel right now.
Right, you're identifying it as a parcel.
I think the standard note that you put on plans is that endorsement does not constitute interpretation of zoning, would be sufficient on a plan like this. That's the note that you put on all A&R plans. You're not verifying zoning on parcel A or lot 1 for that matter with that note.
That's correct. Good, that's my recommendation to the board.
Or something to that effect, right?
I think it's fine just the way it is.
Well, somebody can construe a parcel as a lot.
That's a lot. So it's a semantics thing.
So what, as it's written here,
Parcel A is not buildable as currently
Right,
shown.
and that's- I agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
right?
And what did you say, Mr. Lewis?
I would just ask that you put your standard zoning note on it instead of
Well,
that.
that would be there too.
That would be there as well.
So why have the dual notes?
Why not?
Why not?
Hey, this is us. Seriously, it's been a long time. Are we all set, Steve?
I'm just looking for our standard note.
Oh,
It's planning board endorsement of this plan is not a determination of conformance with zoning regulations. We stamp it.
It's,
Oh,
yeah,
oh, I
it's
see.
We stamp it on every plan,
Yeah.
even if it's not on there, we stamp it, a lot of people
Ah, I
put
see.
it on, we stamp it.
all right. Laura? How about Rebecca? I bet she's okay. I was to endorse as the building lot required, a plan of land in Scituate, Mass. entitled Grove Street, assessed parcels 30-1-23, Scituate, Mass. Stamped by Jason Scott, PLS of US Engineering, Inc. For applicant Eric D. Tomaso and owner Sutton Realty Trust dated August 22nd, 2025, as the division of tract of land shown on the accompanying plan is not a subdivision because every lot shown on the plan has frontage of at least the distance presently required in the Scituate zoning bylaw, public way of Grove Street, or is labeled a parcel which is not a lot. Planning board endorsement of this plan is not a determination of conformance with zoning regulations. A note should be added to the plan that parcel A is not buildable currently shown on the plan.
Second.
all in favor?
Roll, you can do a roll call.
Yeah, roll call vote.
Miss Lewis?
Yes.
Thank you. Miss Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Pritchard?
Yes.
Miss Burbine?
Yes.
Miss Lambert?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is that what you're doing? Yeah, it's just they, it's everything done, I really love this.
All right, the next one.
The next one is a discussion modification of a site plan waiver for Casa Verde, 108, 110 Front Street. Who is trying to
Miss
put in?
Miss Tonder is on.
Online.
Yes, she is.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hello, how are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
I'm real well, thank you. Tell us what's going on.
Well, we left it back in our meeting that I was going to modify the sidewalk to reflect the 3 tables instead of 2, which I did, sent the drawings in. And I guess here we are.
Barry?
So I reviewed them with the building commissioner, and the building commissioner did not feel that this plan was workable with 3 tables. People have to move chairs and tables, so, to get into seats, so this arrangement doesn't work. Three tables of 4 does not work.
I'm gonna stick with my original, denial, which was in the original, approval. We said that there was no outside seating allowed at this venue.
And I have to say, I agree with that. It's true, I drove by there tonight, it's very close. You've got businesses on either side, people coming and going. No, no, I can't do this.
Mr. Burton?
Yeah, doesn't fit, doesn't fit. I mean,
Doesn't fit,
it's,
doesn't fit.
at the end of the day, I guess.
But the original plan did fit, and Mr. Vogel confirmed that. The original plan that I had, he modified to the 2 tables that I had prior, which fits and is no different than any other plan on Front Street from people that have outdoor seating. So I don't know what separates me from the other businesses.
Well, I can tell you, Ms. Trodoff, that when we approved the Hibernian Tavern, there was also a no outside seating. And then COVID came along, and those approvals are given by the Board of Selectmen, not by the planning board. So they obviously do not meet our decisions. Right. That's what I would say. And that is my defense to that, is that, it was COVID and then carried forward with that. And that is the select board's decision, not ours. Ms. Burke?
So I was a little confused by the drawings that were provided because it looks like the trees, unless I'm reading the drawing wrong, are not in front of your business, that they're on the sides. So that would be one of them is in front of Adamo and the other one's in front of CVS.
I mean, not exactly, no. I mean, the trees, there's 23 feet in between the trees. They both kind of sit outside of the parameters of the front of the restaurant.
One of them is right in front of the restaurant.
Pardon me?
One of the trees, no, in reality, one of the trees is in front of your restaurant on the Adamo side.
Okay.
So it looked to me like if you had a table there, then you wouldn't really be able to walk past the table.
Well, it's not though. It's actually not in front of Adamo. I don't know if you have a picture of the original drawing, but
You mean on the drawing or in real?
like the actual photo of the original.
Yeah, I have your layout plan of the first one.
More.
But one of the trees is if you're facing your lovely restaurant, it's to the left of the door. And I just didn't see how you could put a table between the tree and the wall or window essentially of the restaurant and have people be able to
Let me
walk.
try to pull up a picture because I don't think that's not accurate. It's hold on a second. I'm gonna have to pull it up.
Okay.
Do you have the plan of the first one she submitted?
I have one.
Okay.
Do you guys not have a copy of the original picture that I sent?
I do.
I do, yeah.
Okay.
I still think, like I said, I still stand by my point that, if they just don't fit, I think it's too narrow. And our original decision is that there would be no outside seating. In contrary to that is the select board, because they don't meet our decisions.
Well, this hasn't been to the select board
No.
yet. This has not been,
So she's asked me why she's gonna be
but so that they caught this before.
before.
Yes.
I'm just gonna pull it up. I have it here. I mean, it's not the best picture in the world that I have, but it's it'll kind of give you an idea of.
And Ms. Tondorf, you can share your screen if you so wish.
I wish I was that savvy, really.
Ms. Tondorf, are you
We know how
showing,
you feel.
are you showing a photo or your plan?
Yeah,
Or
so
photo?
the
Okay.
trees are actually in front of the restaurant. And the way the front door is situated, there's an extra 36 inches that go in where the door is, so, you know, the door wouldn't come out and disrupt the already proper ADA clearance that we have between where I have the tables situated in the plan. And like I said, I brought it to the select board. Bob Vogel went over, looked at it, said everything was in compliance. Originally with the 2 tables, obviously the 3 tables would need, you know, a different visual, but the 2 tables I had originally presented, the board, you know, I was on the agenda with them, Bob went out, and then they kind of caught that I needed a waiver. So that's what brought me to you guys.
Thank you. So Laura, how do you feel? You
So can I ask a question?
sure?
I mean, I know last time that she was in front of us, you wanted, Steve, you were more comfortable with 3 tables as to 6. I mean, excuse me, 3 tables.
Well, no, I was more comfortable with a lower profile on the sidewalk. I suggested 3
Okay.
4-foot tables, but that was the suggestion. I still
So does
think 2 6-foot tables is gonna be worse.
So does that seem more or less crowded to you now?
Well, the building commissioner.
The building commissioner says it doesn't work, Rebecca.
I'm so sorry, I didn't hear you, Karen.
Yeah, I know, I think she just didn't hear that part.
The building commissioner says it doesn't work.
Oh, the 3, he says the 3 doesn't work.
The 3 tables, right, the building commissioner says it doesn't work.
Okay, so we'd have to go back to the 2 larger tables.
The 2 tables work because I didn't
No,
have.
I don't think it worked. I mean, we could go back and ask one, but I guess I would say, I don't think they would.
I think it's too broad.
Like, you don't think it a matter of opinion or a matter of actual measurements? Because Bob went down there and said it worked. I mean, that was back in August.
Bob says a lot of things, right? So I would say my view of whether that is a good thing to do for the pedestrians who go back and forth there is that's way too tight. And it'll only get worse over time.
So this opinion based because it's the
No,
same.
it's based on looking at the space. I walk by that space like every day.
Yeah.
So.
And I can tell you that when I go by Hibernian and I have 2 children with me, they can no longer walk next to me. One is in front of them and one is in back of me, or my other option is to walk in the street. That is not good for safety. I think, as I said to you before, I think Salt Society lends itself well to Outdoor City because of the huge overhang from the old building, but I do not see Front Street as being very compatible with Outdoor City. The sidewalks are just too narrow. That's my opinion, and that's kind of what counts.
So what if it was 2 tables of 4?
Yeah, there were 2 tables with 6 people at each.
No, but what if it was 2 tables of 4? What's your opinion?
2 tables of 4 would probably physically
I think that would.
address the building commissioner's concerns that tables and chairs had to be moved in order to get people out of the 2 tables on the ends. That was his concern. He said there's not enough room for those.
Well, so the original drawing that I had, because the space really is in the width, the 23 feet. So that's why I did the 2 tables So there was no seats coming into the sidewalk. They were all in between that jurisdiction, in between the trees. That's why the original drawing looked like that. So there was ample amount of space in between the building and the edge of the table without putting abutting chairs on the backs, if that makes any sense.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
And that's why I had done it that way, to give,
So,
you know, even more
I don't know how
room.
ample that is.
It's just a fact that 12 seats doesn't work.
Yeah.
12 seats doesn't
That's right,
work.
it's too big.
Okay.
Regardless,
And
regardless,
why are we, I guess,
why are we doing this?
why are we trying to jam this in, I guess?
Well,
We
she's not-
started out with an approval that said there would be no seating on the sidewalk.
That's right.
Right,
So why are we trying to change that now?
We should not be.
I don't know why because she's asking
She's
to
asking.
change it.
I know, but I'm asking her, why are we changing it now? We went in and said there would be no seating on the sidewalk. So
Because
why are we
as you,
changing
you've
it?
expressed your opinion, I'm 14 years in the restaurant business, and this to me is not, I want more seats, I want more seats. It's because I think it offers a very nice, it's a nice offering to the community to be able to go outside and dine outside, as most, you know, business districts with multiple restaurants have. That's my opinion, my professional opinion. This isn't about jamming in more seats. It's about even aesthetically, you know, every other space in Scituate has outdoor seating.
Not because we've
And
approved
not
it.
doing everything, that's right.
And, you know, if that were the case, it wasn't raised at the original approval here.
Yeah.
Because it's very clear what the limitation was, so this feels like, you know, you accepted what you got and then you're coming back and asking for more. I mean, that was raised at the original review.
So. Are we ready to take a vote?
I think you're ready to take a vote.
Do we have a motion?
I didn't make a motion because I had no idea how you were going.
So make a vote.
Move to deny outdoor seating at Casa Maria.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Baxter, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Pritchard,
Yes.
Miss Burke,
Yes.
Miss Lewis,
No.
Miss Burbine,
Yes.
Miss Lambert.
Yes.
So your vote is 4 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative. The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Thorndike.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, now we're moving along. We're gonna
Minutes.
wrap this up. Old business, new business, approve the minutes.
Minutes, move the minutes.
That's it.
Move the minutes, planning board, August 8th, August 28th, 2020.
Second. All in favor?
Oh. Mr. Pritchard,
Yes.
Miss Burke,
Yes.
Miss Burbine,
Yes.
Miss Lewis,
Yep.
Miss Lambert.
Yes.
Motion
Anybody want-
carries.
Yes.
Okay.
I move to approve purchase order number 2602262 in the amount of $323.75 for office filing cabinet.
Okay.
Purchase order 2602490 in the amount of $155 for consulting services related to the revision of the town's stormwater regulations. Purchase order 2602491 in the amount of $1,705 for peer review services related to 21 Central Avenue. Purchase order 2602688 in the amount of $3,075 for peer review services related to 18 to 20 Country Way. Purchase order 2602692 in the amount of $166.40 for legal ads related to 1820 Country Way.
For a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Mr. Pritchard,
Yes.
Miss Burke,
Yes.
Miss Burbine,
Yes.
Miss Lewis,
Yes.
and Miss Lambert.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Did anybody liaison?
Got canceled.
Karen, how are you doing?
I do, just shoot me, you know. I I got an email today that they plan to top coat, Toll Brothers the first or second week in October. I suggested to them that perhaps a site visit is needed with myself and the consulting engineer to see if it's really ready for top coat. They're having a pre-construction conference on 9/25 for the Haverly School. I'm going out there with the conservation agent on the 16th to review some of the areas that perhaps can get erosion control in prior to the pre-construction conference, and they filed for their NIPDES, but they filed on the 9th. And so they don't have the permit yet. Of course, they were supposed to let us review it before they filed it, but that's a story for another day. You're going to be getting a remand for 165 Summer Street, the Form A. The judge was out there the other day. I haven't seen any documents, but the town council has told me you're gonna get a remand. Okay. No change bylaw, so they're going to finagle some lot lines.
How exciting.
Can we force that here?
I am in the process of trying to set up a meeting with town council and three department heads and 3 chairs of boards on projects that are going to involve 3 boards. So 18 to 20 Country Way and 21 Central Ave. The purpose of the meeting will be to get everybody on the same wavelength.
Excellent.
And the sooner the better.
Well, I sent an email to town council 2 days ago, and I haven't heard back. But, the purpose is to try to get, everybody has different issues.
Yeah.
But you wanna make sure we're all legally doing what we're supposed to, and one board's not,
Do we understand what everybody else is doing?
Right,
That's what I
right,
need to
right.
know, yeah.
Next time we have a stormwater workshop, I have been working diligently with the MS4 consultant on this. And my question to this board is, right now, we allow permeable pavers as totally pervious. And we have a lot of stormwater permits that come in at 23.9%, 24.999%, et cetera. And a lot of them are using pervious pavers to try to get out of doing the stormwater permit. One way to address that is to say permeable pavers have to count for the number, but that they are a BMP to address the water.
That makes sense, that makes sense to you. Mr. Pritchett, you'll have to.
I'm just trying to break apart what you just said.
You can think about it. I will be getting you the draft regs.
So you're effectively saying that the permeable pavers don't count in the calculation?
They count towards impervious surface. Now, I discussed with the consultant today, well, what if we went to something like 50%? You could take credit for 50% being pervious. And she's gonna do some research into that. We're one of the only towns around here who regulates impervious surface, not just disturbance. So you can think about it. Right now, if that's the way it's gonna be written.
I guess I would say, what is the empirical evidence say about impervious pervious pavers? Are they generally thought to be impervious after a period of time, or?
It's just the joints that allow you to get the water absorbed.
No, I get that.
Right. I'll ask that question.
Yeah, the question is, how does it compare to a completely pervious surface, like grass or something?
Well, we've seen that it does promote some infiltration. I will
Stop,
ask,
that's what I'm saying, what's that
Okay.
percentage?
I will ask the percentage.
Yeah, I would say it's based on whatever the science is, basically.
I mean, that's how it's gonna be worded for the stormwater workshop. Whether it gets changed, if that went to town council today, and you have the stormwater workshop on the 25th, you have the public hearing on October 23rd, and we have to pass the stormwater regs this year to be in compliance with MS4.
Okay.
And we remain very busy with stormwater permits and ADUs.
You want us to say we don't believe you? What we believe? I don't know.
ADUs, you're gonna have, when I'm not here on October 9th, you'll have 2, possibly 3 ADUs.
Swell.
Yeah, I know.
But we can do, but we can do that, so.
You can do that.
So I would entertain a meeting, move.
Okay.
Second,
All those in favor?
all in favor?
Miss Lewis,
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
Miss Burke,
Yes.
Miss Burbine,
Yes.
Mr. Pritchard,
Yes.
Mrs. Lambert.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you, good night.
Good night,
Bye.